This panel is entitled Technology is an Accelerator of Change in High Tech, Oil and Gas, and Mining. We don't often think of high tech when we think of oil and gas and mining, but if technology makes extraction cheaper and safer, then energy prices and quality of life can improve for everybody. High tech is driving many industries, including agriculture, healthcare, telecommunications, and entertainment. As we learned from the master video, the G20 countries as a whole continue to struggle to attract females in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. Awareness, lack of education, stereotypes limit girls and women from being involved. Today we will talk to 4 people who will share with us some of their exciting, the advancements in their industries and their specific fields, and what lies ahead in the future within their fields, but also what they're doing in terms of inclusion of women and what role their companies are taking to actively get more women at the table in these fields. So I will start off by introducing our panel. Directly to my left, your right, is Julia Slolaviva, and I pronounced it the English way. I'm sorry, I defaulted. I was going to try and get it right, but I apologize. Close enough. Julia joined Google Russia in January 2013, so she is very new with the organization. Between 2007 and 2012, she was an executive vice president and president of a large Russian media company called Prof Media, where she was responsible for managing assets, corporate governance, and putting together the company financial results. From 2003 to 2006, she was a director for corporate development at Mobile Telesystems, and holds a business degree from Harvard, where she graduated in 2001. To her left, we have JP Beckering from Caterpillar. JP is general manager of the Global Accounts Division and reports directly to the president of Global Mining. He and his team are responsible for the relationships with the main mining houses across the globe. He is a graduate of the Technical University in Delft, Netherlands, and was an officer in the Navy. And on Hangout, we have Mary Hayes. Mary, would you give a wave to everyone? Hi. Mary Hayes is with Engage Learning, is an educator and has been involved with educational media and systems developer for more than 30 years, in educational publishing as well. Mary is the founder of workbay.net, which is her 3rd company dedicated to the education and training of people. The 4th person is Tara Wiseman. Tara, hello. And hello. She is from Kinross, and she comes to us, I believe you're in Toronto. Are both of you in Toronto?
Yes.
She is the Director of Human Resources for Kinross Gold Corporation, has over 20 years' experience, and has held many positions, including recruitment and training development. She is part of the HR leadership team and is involved in developing global HR strategy. Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for taking the time out of your very busy schedules to be with us.
Thank you.
So I'm excited to host this Google Hangout. I think it will be lots of fun. And this is intended to be fairly informal, so I will throw out a question. I'll try and get all of you to answer, but feel free to interject, maybe raise your hand or just jump in whenever you see fit. So the first question is, there's clearly a gender gap in technology, mining and oil and gas. What are your organizations doing to change this, if anything? And what do you think is required for better representation of females? Before I get you to answer the question, I just want to remind you that our goal is to put forward concrete suggestions for our delegates, for them to take those suggestions and ideas to the G20 leaders. So any specific ideas and examples would be greatly appreciated. So maybe, Julia, we'll start with you since you're right in front of me.
Yes. Well, first of all, it's an incredible honor to host such a great group and a great event at Google Russia. We're very pleased to see you all girls here. I'm quite new at Google, but I'm the new country manager. So you already see my example is that that Google likes hiring women, and there's a lot of different levels that we actually try to promote technology and promote jobs with technology for women. First of all, we take a lot of initiative into promoting STEM to girls. We partner up with universities. We have special programs. We give grants. I'll give you one of the examples. We have a program called RISE, and just this year, the winners of the RISE was a Russian university, and the outcome of this grant would be to send Russian girls to a retreat in Russia and to talk about different educational opportunities in technology for them. Google also takes a lot of effort to employ and hire women. And inside Google organization, we have a group called Women at Google. It's an organization that includes over 4,000 women that actually, join together and discuss problems that are inherent in technology and building careers. And that group, in fact, this year launched a pilot program called Women on the Web that is targeting women in entrepreneurship, women that want to start their own businesses. And we now have a pilot in India, in Russia, I think in Turkey, and if the pilot goes well, we want to spread it around the world. So this is just a couple of examples of what Google does on different levels to promote technology for women and to attract women to technology, and Google including.
That's great. Thank you. JP, would you like to jump in?
Yeah. I first like to say that it's extremely intimidating to sit in a meeting with only women here. And I'm not used to that. And I was thinking, what is the advantage of that? And I was hoping that when there was a break, I will be quick to the restroom. But that's not even the case here. So
no such luck.
Thank you for inviting me here. It's an extremely important subject we're talking about. And I'd like to start by saying that I have been, from my education on, living in a man's world, basically. I studied mining. I'm a mining engineer, worked underground. There's very few women over there. Then I did my duties in the Navy as an officer, very few women there. And then I started with Caterpillar. And then I get into the mining group within Caterpillar. And I would say that we have basically two negatives to overcome. One is the mining. Mining is very much a field where there's seen that, man, it's a physical job, and then on top of that, we've seen it with the STEM education, because a lot of people in the group are engineers. But I think technology is actually an area where it will help to get females into the job. And so I think technology is a great subject to get more females into mining. And technology is going to be extremely important, and we'll speak probably a little bit more about that. But Caterpillar does a lot of things. We do them internally. We try to change our culture. Since a year or three, our executive office, from the CEO up, very, very heavily focused on diversity and inclusion and the gender question. On top of that, Caterpillar has a lot of initiatives externally. We now having a president. One of our tech lead engineers is going to be the president of the Society of Women Engineers in the U.S., which is a very extremely important organization, and we'll get a lot of leverage out of that presidency, and we'll work within Caterpillar to make sure that we understand the importance, because the internal culture is important. As you live in for a long time in the world with only men, you believe that is the way to do things. But right. I have seen many examples that it can be done different, and that's what I think we need to use. We need to use the role models, and I heard it a couple of times. We need to use ladies, women who have done great jobs, and put them in front. We need to put them on advertisement. We need to do a lot of that to show young girls, young ladies, that there's nothing about it. I mean, I was a very bad student in science and maths, and I was really afraid of going to study mining. It was fantastic. There's geological stuff involved. There is all kind of... So we need to bring the message out that it's not only about those kind of things. So I'll leave it with that.
Okay, very good point. Mary, can we turn to you next?
Well, we're mostly involved in mining where it's before the production, during the exploration and discovery phase, when impact benefit agreements are being determined, and where there's an enormous responsibility for free, prior informed consent. And that means I'll just share my screen for a second. I was seeing here in Canada that most of the mining projects are happening in the north. Would you agree, Tara? Although there's a fair amount of gold down here in Ontario, a lot is happening up north, $615 billion worth of projects. And that's where we have mostly Aboriginal people living. And so it's important that those people understand what's going to happen in their community. And they have the ability to have free, which means free consent, which is accessible, information is accessible, it's without duress, it's informed in that it suits all their different learning styles, and they can truly understand what is this that's going to happen under the ground in my traditional lands, and that they have it prior to anything happening. And if you're interested in free prior informed consent, there's a great video on this site, Asia Indigenous Peoples Pact, that talks about what that is and why it matters. Are you seeing my screen okay? Is that working for you?
We can. Thank you.
Okay, so in doing that, what we've done is gone in and to help to get that using communications technology to build that relationship so that there is communication between the people who are on the land before the mine happens and the people who are planning the project for the mine. And using communications technology, we've been interviewing women, elders in the community who tell us
Unfortunately, Mary, we're not getting any sound, so.
Yeah, they tell us about the skills that they have and the relationship that they have to the land. They tell us about their competency of catching wild animals with great efficiency, going out and harvesting the land. Well, mining really is a form of harvesting, and the skills around strategy and use of scarce resources to go out into a place that is virtually wild and gather back from that products that will sustain your community. Those are skills that are just as true and as for if you want to work in mining as if you're going to be a woman, be a mother, be a daughter on the land. And so what we're trying to do is to map the traditional knowledge in the places where we are and speak to women and articulate that the things that they do and the skills and knowledge that they have that they would pass on to their daughters, that these same skills and knowledge will support their daughters to work in resource industries. Strategy, problem solving, and decision making, communication, inclusion, leadership. These are skills whether you are a woman living a traditional life or a woman in a mining community.
Well, thank you. That's a great example of how you're integrating into a new society and educating those around you. So thank you. The next and last person, Tara, do you have any thoughts on this question?
I do. It's certainly an area that we feel very strongly about, that we need more people in mining generally. There's not enough people going into mining engineering, and that certainly includes women. And given women are obviously a significant proportion of the workforce, we need to make sure that they're well represented in that industry as well. And a lot of the things that we've been talking about is how do you get women interested in some of these fields earlier? We know that a lot of women actually seem to move away from things like math and science and engineering at a fairly early age in their school career. And unfortunately, we weren't able to see the video earlier, which may have addressed the point. But that's certainly something that there's a lot of work being done by some of the local mining industry associations here in Canada, and something that we look at globally. We also look at, as students are graduating, how do we help bring them into the mining industry and help to accelerate their career? So Kinross is very proud of one of our programs called Generation Gold, where we bring young people fresh out of school and we have them start their career in mining, and we have them participate in great learning and working opportunities in different countries around the globe during their first 4 years of working with the company. And we really do put a focus on trying to ensure that we get the best, but that includes the best women as well, and that they can have that learning opportunity, development opportunity, and ultimately, we hope, become part of the Kinross organization for the long term and become part of our future leadership.
And I think you make a good point that was also a point made in the video, which you unfortunately didn't get to see, was that the women who do end up in engineering have tremendous success. So it's not a matter of whether they can do it. It's getting them at the table. It's getting them in the classrooms. And they're seeing highly engaged and highly successful females in the area. So I think it's fair to say, and I'm going to hammer this point out to the 21 girls, young women sitting in front of us, that this is about education, this is about awareness, and this is about steps that we need to take to get women there, because once they get there, they have tremendous success. And I think you are all reinforcing that same comment. I'm going to move to the next question, and it starts with a quote. The world is not running out of oil and natural gas. It's running out of easy oil and gas. And as energy companies drill deeper and hunt in more remote regions and difficult deposits, they're banking on information technology to boost production. This is from the MIT review. Tell us how your company's industries view research and development and technology as drivers of future economic success and sustainability. And maybe we'll work backwards this time. So, Tara, if you don't mind starting with an answer to this question.
Sure. Well, we've had a lot of conversations internally about this question. And I think one of the first things I'd want to make sure that everyone fully understands is mining, in many ways, is no longer what most of us picture mining to be. Mining doesn't require that you be a particularly, I think most of us picture strong, burly men getting out with their pickaxes and things like that. It's not like that anymore. There's big trucks that do most of the hard work. And so anyone can drive that. In fact, some of our best truck drivers are women. They tend to be a little more careful. And things like, it's a stupid little thing, but truck tires are incredibly expensive, tens of thousands of dollars. The women are more careful about where they drive on those ramps so that they're not going over stones and things that damage the truck tires. So the truck tires last longer. So I guess my main point being that, yes, there is new technology, and some of that technology isn't all that new anymore, but it does mean that mining is accessible to everyone. There's very few jobs that are dependent on anything to do with gender. So there's a lot that can be done. The challenge of mining is what you said, it's remote. And not everyone wants the lifestyle of living in a remote community. But that applies to everyone, not just women. And so we focus a lot on what we can do about making that environment more appealing. The other thing is taking old technologies and using them in new places. So Kinross has pioneered using several things that are being done in other climates and applying them in areas like Russia, as well as in Alaska, places that are in the Arctic, and has had tremendous success at doing that as well.
That's great. Thank you. Mary.
Well, we're working with Penguin Automated Systems. They're using communications technology so that it truly is like you can sit in your own chair and be driving machinery that's inside the mine. So it really doesn't matter where you're sitting. The mines of the future expect that you can be almost anywhere and be operating a remote mine. This will allow people to live in community and still show up for work.
That's a very good point. It reminds me of in the medical field and how operations are done via camera and video, and a doctor can be in another country while managing surgery. So that's a really great example.
Yeah, I think that we should also take a moment to speak to Lorraine Mitchell-Moore, who's the CEO of Shell. I know personally that she's doing a great deal to be inclusive of all peoples and to represent women in a great way as the CEO of Shell these days.
That's great. Thank you. JP.
Yeah, first of all, I like to totally agree with the fact that we also would like to see far more women operators on trucks. That will help us shine our trucks even more, because you're 100% right there that our trucks and our equipment will be better off with women who treat them a little bit better in generally. But the fact in mining is this one. You could say that the easy deposit have been found. We have to go more remote, more deeper to find mines and find the minerals we need to live every day. And to do that, we need to watch the cost, because mining companies don't do it for nothing. They put a lot of money in to get these minerals above and use them. So we, as suppliers of equipment, need to find ways to reduce the cost and work tremendously on technology. And it's not only cost. We want to make our machines more safer. We want to make them more sustainable. There's all kind of technology. Caterpillar lives on technology. If we are not innovative enough, we will not exist. They say in Caterpillar, I think it's a very good line, they say the road of innovation starts with diversity and inclusion. And it's so correct. Mm-hmm. Because again, it comes back to STEM, it comes back to women just starting and doing all this work. We're doing a lot on trying to get female engineers into our company. We fund a lot of after-school sessions with robotics and to make people understand that this is fun and that is important. So I'll leave it with that for now.
Great, thank you. I like that tagline too.
Technology is changing the world and it's changing people's lives. And technology is becoming very complex, but this complexity leads to the fact that it's becoming very easy to use. It's becoming very intuitive, to the extent that a lot of us, we start using technology without even thinking about it. Technology creates communities. It allows us to share information. It allows us to create. And in the end, you actually don't even need to be in technology to use it and to innovate. I'll give you an example. A couple of years ago, a young girl from a small American city started using YouTube to provide video tutorials on how to use makeup and give fashion advice. The girl's name is Michelle Fan. We also have a Russian girl like this. She's 21, and she's done very similar thing. She now has over 1 billion views, over 2.5 million followers, and she created a very successful business out of a hobby. She's a fashion guru. She consults on fashion and design. She launched her own product line, and she's the official Lancome's spokesperson online. This is just an example of how people that previously never dreamt of using technology can now use it without even thinking about it. And I think this is, for companies like Google, this is what we spend all our R&D money, so that people can start using all that there is technology has to offer very naturally and intuitively. Mm-hmm.
I think watching my 7 and 10-year-old nieces operate their smartphones immediately is a testament to how simple technology now and intuitive technology now is. So, and Google is definitely at the cutting edge of making that happen. With that, I'll take us to our next question, which is, technology is changing so quickly, and information is so abundant. And it's one thing to bring people to the workforce who have graduated from programs and have experience. How do you keep your staff, your teams, informed on a regular basis? How do you keep them up to date on the ever-changing landscape that exists in your industries?
Well, we actually use our own tools. We use Hangouts. We use the ecosystem of Google products to stay open and to constantly share information. There's so much information that you just need to be very organized about, what kind of access you want to have and what are the important things that you want to learn on. Otherwise, it's easy to get lost.
Sure.
But I think right now what internet gives is the opportunity to constantly learn and to be always learning about new things. It's just a matter of your own curiosity and passion and the application of your time that drives you forward. I think a lot of companies do share a lot of information. They actually, Google is an open source platform, so we encourage people to come and learn about our products so that they can later on use it for business or pleasure. So just come over and everything is available.
No, I think you guys are at the leading edge of integrating research and development into the daily life of your company. So thank you.
Yeah, Caterpillar, as I said, research and development is the lifeline for our business. We need to innovate our machines, as I explained. And we're spending, last year, for example, on every workday around $8 million on R&D. So you can imagine we have 10,000 engineers. We have around 25 R&D places all over the world. And we have an enormous amount of training centers. So that's where we do our training. But I would also say that we work tremendously in partnerships with universities. If we develop things, we do partnerships with universities. We work very closely with our customers. We listen very carefully what our customers want, and we try to work with the universities who have the knowledge and the top knowledge and have certain alliances where we can keep our IP, obviously, and try to work it. So we're doing a lot of that because otherwise we will not exist anymore.
Mm-hmm. Ladies in the Hangout, do either of you have some thoughts?
Tara, did you want to speak first?
Sure. Well, it's an interesting question. We're in the process of rolling out a learning management system, which will help us in many cases to be able to push out the training that we feel is needed for different groups. So it's a great example of how technology can actually make it a lot easier for us to get the training right to the people who need it. And that training itself can be in many different forms. We do use computer-based training. And in some cases, we have to help people develop the computer skills before they can use the computer-based training. We use simulators in a lot of cases, and we also use actual hands-on working training, and especially for things like skilled trades. We do work with some of our employees to help them to upskill, so perhaps to go from being a truck operator to building some of the skills to be an electrician or a welder. And be able to take on some additional work, especially because we know there's a lack of some of those skills available in the market. But it is a constant challenge.
I think for the next summit, we'd love to be able to use some of your simulators. I think personally that would be a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun.
I'd
like to speak to
I'll work that into
because-
the agenda for the next one.
I'd like to speak to that because a simulator is a place where you make mistakes. It's a different kind of learning environment. There's sort of two main learning environments. One where you consume knowledge and then you feed it back the way you got it and prove you got 100% right, which tends to be a girly thing, especially around when you're 11 years old and making those career decisions. And then there's the creating knowledge, which is like what you can find in a simulator environment where you go and you play and you experiment. And it's the kind of learning where you get it wrong, and get it wrong, and get it wrong again before you get it right. And that's one of the core things that I think about being an engineer or being a CEO of a technology company, or being anyone who is creating new stuff, is that first you have to be comfortable to be wrong over and over and over again. And I think that creating a learning environment where you are constructing knowledge, it's important to create an environment where people are free to just mess up entirely and come back at it the next day.
I think that's a very good point. We have to embrace failure a lot more than we do, because we learn so much when we make mistakes, and in many cases never make that same mistake again. JP,
Because you brought me on another idea. Within Caterpillar now, we have these virtual sessions with our customers. So we have machines out there. You can really you put your goggles on, you walk into the machines, and when it comes to servicing the machines and developing the machines, we get very valuable information from our customers. You need to change that. That doesn't work. So technology is helping really in the design of the machines as well here.
Right. Very interesting. I will point out again, I'd love access to some of these simulators one day.
You're always welcome.
and the Google Glass.
Absolutely.
I'll move along to the next question. Thank you. This is wonderful information. This is where you can talk about some of your exciting advancements. So can you talk a little bit about some of the advancements in technology and maybe some of the things that are in R&D right now that we can be excited about in the future that are still not even close to being ready for commercial use, but deep in an incubator somewhere hidden away from the rest of the world? If there's anything that you can share with us, that would be fabulous.
Sure. Well, you probably all read about the Google Glass and the self-driving cars. Just to give you an example, the idea of a self-driving cars, I think, appeared because Google was using a lot of cars to drive around and take pictures for Street View. And then it all kind of materialized into the necessity to, and the idea to actually try to implement it. And thinking of Moscow and how the self-driving car can solve the traffic issue, actually makes me dream of a car like this in Moscow. But again, if when the cars got commercialized, it really solved the problem of driver safety. It does solve the problem of traffic and many other problems. Another example, very recent one, on Saturday, Google announced Project Loon launch. It's a technology, very experimental, very early stage, that is using balloons that fly very high above the ground that can transmit signals, and ideally, they can be used to bring mobile connectivity to very remote areas where otherwise the GSM or any other technology is not possible. So we believe that this kind of technology will be able to connect people in the areas where other means of telecommunication is not an option, and we're now planning to do different discussions how we can partner up with telecom providers and governments to actually bring this forward. So these are just the two examples of what Google is doing that hopefully will change the world.
Amazing. Thank you. JP?
So from the Caterpillar standpoint, there's lots going on, but I will focus on mining. I've told you that the main deposits, or the easy to find deposits to be mined, are be gone soon, and we're in very remote territory. So that brings the need for what they call the autonomous mine, and we're starting with autonomous trucks. We have started with them already. We have trucks now in Australia as well, and these trucks are operating just completely automatically. And I have to say, it's truly amazing seeing a 400-ton truck driving around with nobody in front of or behind the steering wheel, and it scares the hell out of you if you see that happening. But it's extremely interesting technology, and what it will do is that we can start more cost efficiently to mine mines. And people always think, we don't need people, so we save the people side. But people have to sit behind the control board somewhere in the city. So we probably need a different type of people to run those trucks. But on top of that, what it means if you think about designing of mines. Normally, if you have a mine, the whole road needs to be at least 3 times the width of the truck. Now you can probably smaller that whole road in the future. So mining engineers can start thinking about that. So there's a lot going on there. We're starting with the trucks and the drills, but we want to obviously work towards a complete autonomous mine in the future. There's very exciting stuff going on there.
And I think, JP, you bring a very important point, which is this is not about eliminating jobs. It's about creating different jobs and new jobs. And I think, again, the common theme here is these jobs are all in science, technology, engineering. And if women are not being educated in those faculties, we are going to see an increased gender gap beyond where we are today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Thank you.
If I can pick up on that on a different angle, in addition to the need for different jobs, one of the places where we're seeing a real increase in focus is with regard to environmental, permitting, health and safety, community relations. And while these aren't your traditional science areas, a lot of them are very much focused on science, especially when we get into the environment, and they're really critical for mining of the future. It's an area where, maybe 50 years ago there weren't so many jobs, and now there's a lot of work to be done. It's not necessarily in all of the remote communities, though certainly a good amount of it is. And it's an area where we are seeing a higher proportion of women, and women seem to do very well. So it's another angle to think about when you're thinking about industries like mining.
Great point. And I learned a new term, which is social engineering, when we were doing the video at McMaster, and it seems to be an area that women are quite interested in, and that's exactly dealing with some of the issues that you mentioned. So thank you. Mary.
Well, two of the things mentioned there just are such extraordinary opportunities for education. The automated trucks, like what we're doing with Penguin Automated Systems, they're using not just for trucks, but undersea. And we all want to be extraordinarily careful and respectful of the environment when we talk about mining undersea, but it is what's coming. And swarming robots that are being controlled through essentially fiber optics without the fiber, light technologies for communicating with swarms of computers is an amazing thing. And so they will be the little swarming trucks of the future under the ocean. And Project Loon is one of the things that has lit up my heart. I am so excited about Project Loon. It's one of the reasons that I just insisted on screen sharing and showing that map of Canada, because Project Loon is happening down in the south. And I want them to know that there's a lot of money in the north, and we desperately need Project Loon to move up into the northern hemisphere.
Well, we love your enthusiasm at is it about 7:30 a.m. Toronto time? You've obviously had your coffee.
Yeah, Tim Hortons. Yay.
Very funny. Very cute. I'm just looking at the girls because there are so many common themes that keep being brought to the surface here. So I hope you're getting ready with your questions. The last question I have, do you have any advice for these girls or any of the girls and women watching that are considering getting into this field of work, whether be it from an engineering and science perspective, or, as mentioned, more from a social HR perspective, and maybe share some of the opportunities that are available for them? Anyone like to?
I can start.
I'll kick it off.
Oh.
Go ahead. Women's
Okay.
first.
Okay. I'd actually like to share some thoughts from one of our Generation Gold students who we brought out of Queen's University in Canada, and who has now graduated out of that program, so been with Kinross for just out of 4 years. And she shared some of her experience of getting into mining, getting into engineering, growing up, if you like, in the industry. One of the things she said is, you have to recognize the reality that there aren't a lot of women in the field. But she said it's not easy to be the only one or one of a few, but overcoming the obstacles makes you a stronger person who is better capable of handling all future challenges, both professional and personal. There are tons of opportunities to travel, and the work is challenging, rewarding, and has lots of varieties. And the other thing she said is, if you're curious and enthusiastic about the subject matter in the post-secondary programs, go for it. Don't let thoughts of future jobs and work environments turn you away. You will be fine, and you will handle everything as it comes. A sound technical grounding will ensure that you are ready to work hard and contribute. Ultimately, the work speaks for itself, no matter what your gender, and you are capable of doing great work. I don't think I could put it better than she did.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that, and please thank her for sharing that as well.
I can jump in.
Sure.
It may sound general, but I think technology is really building the future. So if any of you wants to participate in this and build the future, you should definitely all think about being in technology. And Google likes to think big. And in my few months at Google, I already learned that if you want to ask for anything and get it faster, you got to think big. We call it time 10. So think big, have passion, be curious, and don't take no for an answer. And I think everything else will just come.
I think that's very good advice. Thank you. Mary, do you have any last words of wisdom for these girls?
I've had the good luck to interview quite a number of leaders in all different sectors and from all different walks of life, leading in all different domains. And my team, who are there all around you, will say that we hear over and over again, listen and ask questions. It's extraordinary how frequently every leader we talk to comes around to say, well, the key to my success was I listened, and then I just went out there and asked questions. And I think asking questions relates back to my theme of don't be shy to be wrong. Be wrong and be wrong again. That's how you're going to learn something new. So that'd be my final remark.
I think that's great advice, and I'll share a personal anecdote with you. When I started in my first CEO position, I felt that I had a whole lot to learn, and there were many, many situations where I had no idea what was being talked about at the boardroom table, and I learned to take notes, be quiet, and I actually went back to my desk and Googled everything that everyone was talking about, and if it wasn't for Google, I probably wouldn't be as equipped as I was for the next meeting, so thank you, Google, for that. But I think the key is to absolutely listen, take notes, and ask the questions. Sometimes I asked in the meetings, but there were certain things that I thought, I really think they probably expect me to know the answer to this, and I don't. So thank you, Google. So thank you to our panelists. I think our delegates here probably have quite a few questions that they would like to ask. So if you would stay and kindly answer some of their questions, that would be much appreciated. So who would like to kick off? I'm going to leave you in charge of passing the microphone. And
good afternoon. I'm Maggie Liuzzi from Argentina. My question to all the speakers is, apart from our clear right to be part of these fields, which do you think are the economic benefits of incorporating women in your businesses? And also, I would like to know if you have any idea about or suggestion about specific policies or things that can be implemented so that we can enforce that this will be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, can you turn it on? Would anyone like to jump on that question?
I can start. So certainly, as I said at the start, for us, one of the key challenges is just having enough people for the industry. There's a lot of people who will be retiring, a lot of really key skills that we're going to lose from the industry over the coming years. And so from an economic benefit, if we lose half of the potential workforce by excluding women from the business, we lose a ton. And the women can bring some key assets and skills. I think we've all understood over the recent years the importance of diversity in getting the best solutions, the best teams, the best results. And so having that diversity of thought from women as well as men, different nationalities, diversity across the board is really important to us. In terms of policies or approach, I think Kinross and in Canada, what you see is there's a lot of focus on the idea of report and measure. Not necessarily set quotas, but report and measure. There's currently an initiative around reporting, companies being obliged to report on the number of women on their board of directors, and also what they're doing about it or why they are or aren't doing anything about it. Again, not setting quotas, but expecting that companies need to disclose and talk about it, and that in and of itself will cause change. And they've seen that in other fields. And that's been our focus at Kinross as well, to make sure that we're shining light on how many women do we have, where are they being considered for advancement, what are we doing about it? On our board, we now have 25% of our board of directors is made up of women, so that's been a fabulous step forward for Kinross. And we need to continue doing that across the organization and make sure we're asking the questions all the time.
I think that's a very important point that you make, and just to make sure it's clear for everyone, this is not about quotas. It's really about bringing attention to the numbers. And once people are forced to share that information, it becomes very evident and very obvious very quickly who isn't promoting women, who doesn't have women at the boardroom table, and who isn't putting programs in place for diversity, whether it be women or people of different nationalities. So very important point, and thank you. Do we have any other questions? Or does anyone else want to tackle that one, or can we move to the next? Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Violette and I represent France. I had a question about the concept of brain drain, because we learned a lot that women are supposed to be agent of change in their community, and obviously technology is really a way for women, if they're engineer or work in any other technological field, to have a great impact in their community. But I was wondering if there was a risk that women do get into the study of engineering, of technology, but then decide to leave their community, especially in developing countries, to go to a developed country where maybe technology is more developed and therefore work there and doesn't have the ability to impact their home community. And I was wondering if you had an opinion about that.
Great question.
Well, I'm not sure that. Well, I live in Russia, and there's been a time in Russia where a lot of people were leaving to go live elsewhere, and we actually now see a reverse trend where a lot of people do go get education in the West, and then they come back because in countries like Russia, this is where the growth happens, and you actually get access to more action, to having more impact, and you can do larger things in a way, because there is shortage of resources, and there's also many things that Russia and other countries like this now going through that the West has gone through already. So in a way, you can apply a lot more things and have an impact.
It's a very interesting question. I've never thought about that, but I did think when I traveled in countries like Africa that there's so much knowledge there. Who are we to tell them to change? That's where you're coming to. If you take these people away, so I think it's a very good question. I personally believe that, first of all, people only need to be taken away if they want to. If they really want to do this and they think it's good for them, that will be good. Are we then left with generations who don't know certain things they knew before? I doubt it. I think there's still a lot of people there, and I think the people go back to their countries, bring a lot of additional knowledge back, which can help them to enhance what they've been doing and what they've learned in different ways. So, but I think it's a very interesting question.
And just to add to this, I think, in general, the world is becoming more global. So it's okay to actually not to stay all the time in one place. It's okay to go and live in different places and come back. And your experience will then broaden what you can bring back.
It makes me feel that the woman is, in that case, is like a hunter who's going out to gather resources. One of our clients is Western Union, and I can tell you that a lot of money goes back, although the person may go beyond to a new community. And I think we are becoming more and more one community, and that's one of the most beautiful things about living in this time, I think.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Do we have any other questions?
Hi, I'm Helen from China. So it's really fascinating to hear about all these new innovations and technology that's being in place at the moment, but there's still a large digital gap between the developed and developing world where some of the basic technologies are still might not be available. So what do you think technology or engineering would mean to girls in the developing world? Thank you.
Another great question. Would anyone like to?
We should ask them.
I actually think that a lot of things that happen right now is an opportunity. It's not a gap because, if you look at countries like Russia and many African countries, they never had the fixed telephony. They moved directly to mobile. Mm-hmm. So instead of going through many years of development, we have to go step by step. We actually jump. And that gives a lot of opportunities to girls and women in those countries to actually get access through internet and other means to the most up-to-date information and use this information in their home countries.
Anyone else? Do we have any other questions? Oh.
Hi, so my name is Morgane and I'm representing Canada. Critics of active inclusion kind of always ask the question, what do women bring that's different? Why is having these inclusionary policies inherently important? And I guess my question for you is, without resorting to a rhetoric of nurture, what do women bring that's different?
I think it was said earlier if you think about the whole diversity, different cultures, I think women, I have a twin sister, see things different than I do. And I really do think that there's importance in having people with different mindsets around the workplace, because you can learn from each other, and that's where the best things come in the end atop. So I think it's a way of thinking probably, which sometimes and many times in the female side is different than the man's side.
There are some great comedian routines about how women's brains are better at multitasking than a man's, and we certainly live in a multitasking world. And if I'm going to sit on the deck of a ship and manage swarms of robots while I lead my team over the internet and check out my three-dimensional simulated map, multitasking is a cognitive strength that will serve me well.
I think it's very much known that women's and men's brains do function differently, but I think that the research also proves that they both get to the right answer. It's just how they approach it. So I think that there's a lot of value and diversity, again, not just in having women and men at the table, but people who come from different cultures. And Mary spoke earlier, I think it was in our first question, about engaging the communities in some of the northern areas when they're going in to do new work, and understanding how they function and how they approach things and how they approach hunting and gathering or whatever it may be. And there's different tactics that are used that are based on climate, different climates, different geographical settings, and those kinds of differences in unique situations always bring value to the table. So I think the key here is about diversity, and that there's always different ways to come to an answer. It's making sure that you have as many ideas at the table as possible to get the best answer. So thank you.
If I could add one more thing, the idea of networking and building relationships tends to be, again, without going to too many broad generalizations, but tends to be a strength of a lot of women. And not just for some of the areas we've talked about, but within organizations, you need those networks to share knowledge and information. And I think that that's something that women can really contribute in a business environment.
Well, I can say there are 21 girls here who seem like they've been friends forever and only met a few days ago, so I would say that that's probably true. Do we have any other questions?
Hi, I'm Linda. I'm the delegate from Australia. I first wanted to congratulate everyone for like for all the strides that you've made as technology companies towards including women in your businesses thus far. But what I wanted to raise today was something that's an issue that's quite close to my heart, and it is the involvement of women in technology fields from women from non-Western countries. So far today, I feel like we focused very much on like women being involved in mining, that kind of thing, in Western companies and in Western contexts. So my question was directed mostly to JP with Caterpillar, because that's an international company. I wondered if you could give us any sort of statistics, any sort of numbers on how women in your operations in developing countries, in non-Western countries, which generally don't accept women's involvement in these occupations so much, and what kind of strategies you're currently undertaking to address this problem.
Yeah, I won't be able to give you real statistics on this. I know that in our mining group, we are around 13% women, which is far too low, obviously, but I'm unable to do it in non-Western kind of segments, if you want. Like I said, 3 years ago, Caterpillar started with an enormous focus from the executive office on diversity and inclusion, and that is all over the company. So whether we're in Western parts of the world or non-Western parts of the world, it's equal. The whole program starts. Every business unit has to come up with more flexibility, having women in the workplace. We are putting enormous money down to try to get more people into Caterpillar to start off with, and then get them through the ranks, because that's where it fails often. To get the females into the company is one, but then getting them to the ranks over time and really try to get them in leadership positions is a difficult part, and that's where we focused on.
I can speak a little bit to that as well. We have operations in Africa, for example. In our operation in Ghana, the female to male ratio is about 1 to 8. So clearly not as high as we'd like, but I hope maybe a little higher than you'd expect. Even in North America, in the mining industry, you're talking 10 to 15, maybe 20% that are women. So 1 to 8 in Africa, really not that bad. Mauritania, where there's so many barriers for women to participate in the workforce, it's much, much smaller. But we do have about 40 women who are participating in our workforce in Mauritania. In Russia, actually, we have a fairly, I don't have the numbers handy, but we do have a fairly good proportion of women. It's one of our higher countries. And then our other region would be South America, and that's probably a little bit lower than what we see in North America.
One of the big important factors is in moving forward is education, and being able to share knowledge all the way down to the fingertips of an organization wherever it's operating. And we deploy multinationally educational solutions that give accessibility through technology, give accessibility to the learning that allows you to move forward into your career and succeed up through different career pathways into leadership positions in other countries or other domains within the organization. And education is the great ladder, and that will help everybody everywhere. And most multinational companies now are working hard to implement, as Kinross is, a learning management system that will share knowledge from the head office to the fingertips of the organization and make it accessible to all.
One of the things I'd like to mention still is which I learned before I came here, asking a little bit around, but the CAT Foundation, some of you might have heard of it, is our organization who's really looking for good causes to participate, and they have joined a partnership with the Resource Foundation. It's a U.S. nonprofit organization in which we, I think, had $3 million on a project for 3 years to really focus on education and gender equity in South America. So those are the kind of things I think we need to do to start early on. This was for primary school children. We're going to reach 11,000 children in 45 schools or something like that. But those are the things I think we have the obligation to do to start seeding the new generation to join our companies in these kind of areas.
Yeah, I think education is a critical factor here. So in the developed nations, you have a higher percentage of girls and women, or girls who have access to education, and in some of the developing countries, the girls are the ones who don't get to go to school. And so getting a higher education in some of the difficult fields of technology becomes impossible. So this isn't just a problem for higher learning. It starts at the most basic level, which is making sure in some some of the developed countries, that going to school in kindergarten is absolutely accessible. And I know tomorrow we'll be watching a wonderful film on the importance of educating women. So, yes, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Carmina. I'm the delegate of Japan, and I'm actually studying engineering in university. So it's so
Yay.
great to see. All of
Do you
these
want a job?
initiatives.
There's some recruitment that will happen here.
Maybe I can ask a question first. So my question. So it's really great to see all of the initiatives that you have for women from both the consumer level and also production level. And my question is more to do with countries that might not be as progressive as Russia and Canada are yet in terms of including women in the workforce. For instance, in Japan, even though I'm studying engineering, I'm a bit reluctant about going back to Japan after graduating, just because my ideas and my sort of innovative solutions to different problems I feel might not be as respected or accepted there as it would be in other places. So for countries that are still at their baby steps, what sort of public-private partnerships or government incentives do you think would make it easier for businesses to include women in the workforce?
Great question.
Well, procurement is important. The United States has a general rule that you need, if you're a large corporation, you need to have a certain portion of your procurement budget that comes from, that procures goods and services from, let's say, people of diversity, which they include women, although we are, 50% of the population, we're treated as minority when it comes to owning businesses. Procurement is actually kind of strange thing that doesn't seem very glamorous, but making sure that large corporations have policies in place to procure goods and services from women-owned entrepreneurial organizations is a step in the right direction.
That's interesting
I
thought.
also think there's a role for mentoring and ensuring that there's linkages and networks to provide the support for the women. And maybe it's also providing support for the organizations and the men in the organizations who are adapting to working with women and accepting their ideas where that may be a challenge. But certainly for the women who are going into environments where they are very much a minority, having that support so that one day they might meet people who struggle to accept their idea, but based on what I hear from our women working in all kinds of environments, they also meet people who are very supportive and encouraging and positive and wanting them to succeed. But it's the days when you meet the people who aren't as open to your ideas, when you really need that support network to remind you of all of the positive experiences and carry on.
Very good suggestion. I think mentoring and internships are both valuable programs that could be put in place more frequently, both in companies and government, and give young people the opportunity to gain exposure. Again, another valuable thought for your for your communique. Do we have any other questions?
Hi, I'm. Sort of?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Jenny from the United States, and I'm actually from San Francisco, so the tech startup hub of the world, and I'm involved in my own tech startup, and we use a lot of the Google tools, so thank you for that. And my question has more to do with workplace dynamic. Oftentimes, women, and especially young women, I feel, are expected to be nice or be the ones that are more forgiving, especially in tech startup workplace dynamics. And I'm just wondering what advice you have to give to boys and men who are watching this program, and also young women who are really looking for an answer to this question.
Thank you.
Please stay nice and.
Be
I think a lot of men should be more nicer.
I
too.
think that's true. I think we need men to learn to be nicer, and women should stay nice.
I think it is important to be nice.
I agree.
But it's also important to get your point across, and you can do it very nicely too. So I think if you're structured, know your stuff, know your numbers, and can defend your position, you can be very nice about it.
What I meant was not necessarily necessarily like being nice, because I know that delivering your message in a tactful way is very important. What I meant was like, I've had a lot of men and women say to me, shouldn't you be working at a nonprofit? Shouldn't you be doing good things for children versus at a tech startup?
I think you should just ignore those men.
I think whether you're a man or a woman, and I didn't have a time to give some advice, but when I had to make a choice for studies, I didn't initially choose well enough. I didn't have a time. I was probably the shyest boy you could find in the world, and when I failed my last school year before university, I had some more time to think about what I wanted to do. And that has been key to my life, because I really started to look into myself. What is it I want to do in life? And one of the things, I wanted to have an adventure. I wanted to see the world. And those are the kind of things I focused on. And I found mining. I didn't even know that mining existed at that point of time. And so I think whoever tells you what to do, you need to go deep in yourself and think, what is it I want to make out of life? And channel your ideas on where you want to go in your career. And it's up to you.
Unfortunately, we are out of time, so I apologize if there are any more questions, but hopefully our panelists wouldn't mind staying for a couple of minutes after, and we will be going to break now. So thank you very much, our friends in Canada, for waking up so early to be part of the panel. I think all of you brought some amazing insight and some great thoughts for these ladies to take away and think about and discuss.